Hello my dear children, welcome to our EVS class. So children, today we will begin a new chapter in EVS. The chapter we will learn will be chapter 16. The chapter that we will discuss today is chapter 16, a busy month. And in this video we will be discussing about the nest of birds. That means the different kinds of nest that birds build. So children, before we begin the class, I am sure that you all must have seen different types of birds, isn't it? If you just look around, you can see different kinds of birds flying around. And you also know that each of the birds have different kind of sound, isn't it? They have a particular sound of their own. A crow makes a sound differently. A quail sings beautiful song, isn't it? A barbet sings differently, and even a parrot twitters differently, isn't it? The birds twitter differently. So just as the way they have different sounds, they also live in different places, isn't it? They all look different and they live in different places, and accordingly they will be building their nest. So let us learn more about the different types of nest that a birds build while we start the chapter. So let us begin. So children, in this chapter you will mainly learn about the different body parts of a bird. You will also learn about the different types of birds that you can see, and you will also learn about the different types of nest that they make. Okay, so children, the chapter's name itself is a busy month, isn't it? A busy month means it is actually a busy month for the birds as they have started building their nest. Okay, so let us see why we call it a busy month. So before we learn about the nest, let us first learn about the different parts that a bird have. Okay, their body parts. So here I have given a picture of sparrow, and you could see the different parts are labeled, okay, in a sparrow. Okay, so first the bird, if you look at this sparrow, this is common for most of the birds. Okay, the head of the bird, this part, okay, it's actually called the crown, or you also call it head. Okay, then the birds have eyes, isn't it, to see the things. Then they have a beak. Beak helps them to break the seeds or to eat the food. So they have beaks. Then on their body you can see that their body is covered with feathers. You can see that the body is covered with feathers, and the feathers are of different colors, isn't it? They are of different colors. Some birds have colorful feathers, some birds have less colorful feathers. And you know children, the feathers that cover their body, these are actually the small feathers. They are small feathers. Those feathers that cover their body and that are smaller in size, we call it as the body feathers. Okay, and those feathers that are larger in size, that you usually see on the wing. This is the wing of a bird, and on the wings you can see larger feathers, isn't it? Large and broad feathers. These feathers are called flight feathers. So they have a crown on the head, beak, wing, and wing is covered with flight feathers, feathers that help the bird to fly, and body feathers, the smaller feathers. And you can also see that the bird has a feet, isn't it? Just like us, it also have feet. The feet we also call it as claw. That is the portion that is helping the birds to catch the things, or to perch on a branch, or to walk on the ground. That part of the feet we also call it as claw. Okay, claws. And the bird also has a tail. So these are the different body parts that you can see in a bird: crown, beak, wing and feet. And on the body you can see body feathers, and the feathers that help the birds to fly is actually the flight feathers. It also has a tail. Okay, tail is also made of feathers. So these are the common body parts that you see in a bird. Now let us learn about the nest that birds make. Okay, the different types of nest that a bird makes. Let us learn about that. So children, you all know that birds live in different places, isn't it? You can see that the birds live in different places. So birds live in different places. They also build their nest in different places. Okay, so as they live in different places, birds live in different places. So they make their nests also in different places. You can see that birds live in different places, so they make their nest also in different places. Okay, some of the birds will build their nest on top of the trees. Some of them build their nest near a water body, near a river, or on the shore of a pond, isn't it? By the banks of a river, or by the banks of the, sorry, not on the shore, on the banks of a river, or on the banks of a pond, isn't it? By the side of water bodies. Some even make their nest on the ground, some on the holes of the trees. Okay, so they make nest in different places. Some of the birds even make the nest near homes, isn't it? In the buildings you can see some birds, isn't it? Like the sparrow. So you can see that they live in different places, and accordingly they also build or make their nest in different places. And children, usually they make the nest when they have to lay eggs. Okay, so only during that time they will make their nest. So they make nest to lay eggs. And once the eggs have hatched and the chicks have grown, they will leave the nest. And chicks have grown, they leave the nest. Chicks means the young birds, or the young ones of the birds. Once they have grown, they will leave the nest. And in order for the egg to hatch, children, one of the bird will be sitting over those eggs so that the eggs get the enough warmth. And usually children, when they start building their nest, they will make the nest by pairs. That means the male bird and the female bird will be working together to make the nest. Birds work in pairs. So they work in pairs to build its nest. Then you can also see children, birds make the nest. How they make it is with the help of their beak and their claws. Okay, with the help of their beaks and claw, they will be making their nest. Why? Because they don't have hands like us, isn't it? So with the help of their beak and the claw, they will make their nest. So these are some of the points that you should remember. Okay, now let us see which are the different kinds of birds and the different types of nests that each particular bird makes. And you all know children, the nest that each bird makes will be different. A crow's nest will be different from a sparrow's nest. So let us familiarize how the nest habit of different birds are. So see, Indian robin, this is one of the birds that you can see around our country. Okay, the picture that I have shown over here is the picture of the Indian robin. And see, this is the nest of the Indian robin. The Indian robin, if you look at the picture, you can see the nest is mainly made of grass, and over the grass, on top of the grass, you can even see soft twigs, roots, wool, hair, and even cotton wool. And when the eggs have hatched, the young baby birds, the mother bird will be feeding it with small insects. You can also see when the chicks in the or the small birds in the nest once the eggs have hatched. So that is how an Indian robin makes its nest. Then the next is of a crow, the nest that a crow makes. You know children, crow usually build the nest on trees, isn't it? On top of the trees or branches. So if you look at this nest, you can see many things, even wires, isn't it? See, wires are there. Then with a lot of materials, you can even find pieces of wood or anything that it will get, it will be using it to make the nest. It doesn't have a particular choice. It will make the nest with whichever thing it gets. Okay, whatever it collects, it will use it to make the nest. Sometimes you must have seen even around your houses, isn't it? When the crow starts building its nest, it will take away whatever thing it gets, isn't it? It will be taking it to build the nest. Then next is the quail. This bird that I have shown over here is quail. You know children, quail never builds its own nest. What it does is that it will lay eggs in a crow's nest, and the egg hatches along with the crow's egg. Okay, so once the quail has laid the egg will hatch along with the crow's egg. Okay, so it never makes the nest, quail. So you can say that the quail is a lazy bird, isn't it? It never builds its nest. Then the next bird that you will learn is about the doe. See, a doe usually builds the nest among the caddis plant or on any of the trees like a mehendi hedge. Hedge is a small tree. So among the bushes it will be building the nest. So here you can see that the doe has built the nest among the thorns, isn't it? Among the caddis tree it has built, and it will be using small twigs to build its nest. Okay, tiny twigs it will use. Twigs means the small branches in order to make the nest. And the next one is the sparrow. You all know that you all know the sparrows. You can see them flying around in and outside our houses, isn't it? So this is a male sparrow bird and this is a female sparrow bird. They work in pairs to build the nest. You could see that they even build the nest inside our house, isn't it? They will even build a nest on top of the cupboard or even behind the mirror or on a ledge. Ledge means any flat surface like a shelf. And it can even build its nest outside our house also. So you can see the sparrows flying in and around our houses, and it usually builds the nest in and around our houses. Then the next bird that you will learn is about the pigeon. Pigeon also uses twigs and other materials to build the nest. So usually pigeons build their nest on buildings. Okay, usually if a building is deserted means nobody is living in that building. Okay, in such building they will build their nest either inside or outside the building. They even build their nest on old buildings or houses, or even on the roofs or chimneys. They will be building their nest and they will lay the eggs. Okay, so that is how a pigeon builds its nest. Then a barbet or coppersmith bird. This is the picture of a barbet. Okay, you could see, if you look at the picture, you can see it has made the nest in the hole of a tree trunk. That means on the tree's large stem, the stem of the tree, we call it as trunk, isn't it? It's wood and thick. On that it will be building its nest. See, it has made holes, and inside the hole of the tree trunk, so what it will do, it will lay the eggs. So a barbet is also known as coppersmith bird. Okay, so it makes the nest in a hole in a tree trunk. So the next bird you will learn is about the tailor bird. Just like the name of the bird, tailor, isn't it? Tailor stitches clothes. Here the tailor bird stitches the leaves to make the nest. Okay, so if you look over here, did you see the beak of the tailor bird is very sharp, isn't it? Just like a needle. So with the help of the beak, it will be stitching the leaves in a bush. Okay, so it will stitch the leaves, and within the space of that leaf, or within the folds, between the fold of the leaves, it will make the nest. It will fill it up with any materials like feathers or cotton wool, so that the nest remains soft, and inside that it will be laying eggs. Okay, and once the eggs have hatched, it will feed the young baby birds also. See, so it is using the beak to stitch the leaves. Okay, so that's how a tailor bird builds its nest. Then the next is the sunbird. You must have seen some of the nests hanging from the branches of trees. Okay, just like this one. You could see it hanging from a branch of small tree or of a bush. So the sunbird children, they usually build the nest with the help of grass. Grass is the main material that is used to construct the nest. Along with that, they will also use hair or thin twigs, then dry leaves, cotton wool, bits of tree bark, and pieces of cloth, and even cobwebs. Okay, bark means the outer layer of the tree trunk. You must have seen that in a large tree, sometimes the outer layer that you see on the stem of the tree breaks off easily, isn't it? It's dry and it flakes off or breaks off. Those barks it will use. See, you can see it over here. It will be using to build the nest, and even it will also use cobweb. Cobweb is the web of spider, a spider's web. It will use it also to construct the nest. So if you look at the nest, you can see it has used many things, isn't it? It's not just grass, many things are there. Dry leaves are there, then you can see twigs, then cotton wool, bits of tree bark, pieces of clothes. Okay, then also cobweb. Then next is about the weaver bird. Weaver bird makes nest beautifully. If you look at this nest over here, see how beautifully the weaver bird has woven the nest. And usually, you know children, it is the male weaver bird that makes the nest. It will mainly use the grass. It will collect the grasses and it will weave the nest. Just as we weave a basket using dry leaves, the weaver bird will be using dry leaves to weave its nest, and it's usually the male bird. And weaver bird not only makes just a single nest, it will make many nests. And the female bird will choose the best among the nest. Okay, she will choose the nest that she likes the most. So see how hard the work is for the weaver bird. The nest is so beautiful, so it's not just one nest that the weaver bird has to make, it has to make many nests only. Then the female will choose a particular nest to lay the eggs. So the female bird afterwards will choose the best nest that she likes, and then she will lay eggs on it. Like will lay eggs on the nest. So you could see that the weaver bird's nest also hangs from the branches of trees or twigs. Okay, and it's very beautiful. Then children, you all learned about the different kinds of nest in birds. Didn't you see how beautiful each of the nests were? Each of the nests are made with different things, isn't it? The birds use different things to make their nest. Okay, so for making their nest is difficult, you all know, isn't it? Nobody is there to help the birds to make their nest. So they are making this nest. They have to do such a difficult job to make the nest. They have to collect the things for making the nest, but it's not just over yet in a bird's life. It's not just that difficult task that they have to do. See, after making the nest, they have to face the real situation. That is, they have to take care of the nest. Once they lay the eggs, you all know that a bird have many enemies, isn't it? Birds have many enemies, including us, isn't it? Human beings, cats, squirrels, even other birds, isn't it? That can steal off their eggs. Isn't it? They can steal the eggs that the birds have laid, and they can even break their nest. So they have to be careful. So they have to keep themselves safe. They have to collect the food for the young birds that are there in the nest. Isn't it? They have to feed them, and they have to see whether the young birds have grown. So till they have grown and they have started flying, it is a difficult task for the parent birds to take care of their nest. Okay, so it's just like a test for them. Okay, all these are part of their life, and it's just like a test. But even though they have to face all these difficulties, you know how beautifully they fly and sing around, isn't it? So that's how a bird's life is. So children, in this chapter, you learned about the different types of the nest that you see in birds, and you also familiarized the names of different birds. Isn't it? So children, whichever points that were written on the board, please underline those points in your textbook and read the textbook. So I hope that the body parts of the birds and the different types of birds and the nest that they make are clear to you. So thank you children.